Welcome to our webinar on extended producer responsibility, EPR, specific to non-household and industrial packaging, organized as part of Betriber&Emwelt. We will spend about 1 hour together. After my brief introduction, Tim Mirguin from the Environment Agency will outline the legal framework and obligations of packaging producers. And Marc Bastian from Valorlux ASBL will present the responsibilities and services of an accredited organization. Then you will have the opportunity to ask questions during the Q&A session after the presentation. You can send your questions during the event using the Q&A tab. We will answer this during the Q&A session. After the event, you will receive a summary email with a link to the presentation and the recording of the webinar. To start, I would like to tell you a little bit more about Betriber&Emwelt. Betriber&Emwelt, which means companies and environment, is an initiative of the Luxembourg Institute of Science and Technology in partnership with the Ministry of the Environment, Climate and Biodiversity and the Environment Agency. It is a regulatory and environmental information platform for Luxembourg companies. Its objective is to proactively raise awareness and inform companies about regulatory and environmental issues in order to improve their compliance with regulatory requirements and to turn different environmental policies and requirements into an opportunity for innovation. To this end, free activities are offered to companies in collaboration with partners. These partners may include administrations, professional federations and chambers, as well as institutions. The activities offered are available on the website betriber&emwelt.lu, which is in French. Here you can see an overview of the website with sections dedicated to the following topics: Komodo regulations, best available techniques, environmental management, deconstruction and resource circularity, chemicals, and EPR. Betriber&Emwelt offers you concise, simplified information that is accessible to non-experts, tools and guides, events. The latest news is posted online regularly, a thematic newsletter on EPR, and the newsletter is sent out every quarter. You can subscribe to it using this QR code. I invite you to do so to stay up to date with the latest news and upcoming events. Betriber&Emwelt is also present on social media, on LinkedIn and YouTube. If you would like to learn more about regulations related to the environment and chemicals, please subscribe to the Chemicals and Environment Luxembourg channel, which covers the activities of Betriber&Emwelt and the REACH and CLP Luxembourg helpdesk. You can find simplified and summarized information on EPR on the Betriber&Emwelt website in the EPR section, with subsections dedicated to electrical and electronic equipment, packaging, batteries, and tobacco products with filters. Here you can see an overview of what you will find in each subsection, including frequently asked questions, links to regulation, available documentation tools, useful links at national and EU level, and contact details. Presentations from events and videos of webinars are available on the website. To find them, simply click on Resources in the top right-hand corner, then Events, go to the Archives sections and select the year of the event. For example, you will find the webinar in French organized last year on EPR for non-household or industrial packaging waste. We have already scheduled 2 webinars on EPR, electrical and electronic equipment, in French and in English in March. Finally, you will find here Betriber&Emwelt contact details here. So now I will give you the floor to Tim.
Yes, hello. Thank you, Caroline, for the introduction. So I'll give you the presentation on the legal framework and obligation of the packaging producers. So just a short overview of the presentation on the next slide. So yes, I give you an explanation of the regular context where we'll try to explain you what is in general the concept of an EPR scheme and what aim does it try to achieve. Then I will give you a brief definition of what is non-household packaging, and most importantly as well, what is the definition of producer? The producer, what are his roles and responsibilities? And mainly as well, are you going to be, is the definition of producer going to apply to your company maybe? You're going to hope this is going to give you answers to that question. And if yes, obviously, what are the obligations that you're going to have under this legislation? So an EPR scheme, what is the aim? The aim of an EPR scheme is to ensure that packaging placed on the market is responsibly managed throughout its life cycle. And this is achieved by shifting the responsibility for managing the waste to the companies that place them on the market. So if you see the illustration on the left, the life cycle of packaging starts with a manufacturer on the left-hand side. So the manufacturer, let's say, is a dairy producer who puts yogurt on the market. I give you on purpose an example of household packaging as it's much more illustrative and easy to explain for everybody to understand what an EPR scheme is. So again, the manufacturer, he will place some yogurt on the Luxembourg market, he produce it, and he will package it. And then the vendor, often then the supermarket, the vendor will sell their products in its supermarket. The consumer consumes the product and he will dispose of the packaging, the yogurt pot. So typically in Luxembourg, if you live here, you're aware of the blue bag collection, which is organized by Valorlux. So the consumer will dispose of, hopefully, in the blue bag provided to dispose of packaging. And that packaging will then go into recycling and hopefully then act again as a product to produce new packaging that then the dairy producer could use again. So this is the ideal scenario in which we would find us. So an EPR, what does it stand for? It stands for the extended producer responsibility. So here we try to put the responsibility on the producer. So in this case, the dairy producer produces the yogurt, which is based in Luxembourg. They're produced in this case. He will be responsible for organizing the collection and the recycling of the products. So in this case, he would then be responsible for the blue bag collection. So the blue bag collection is obviously organized by Valorlux, but Valorlux regroups all these producers who will then pay for this collection. So why do we try to shift the responsibility to the producer? Well, it makes sense because the producer is the first actor in the chain and he will be able to influence the design of the packaging. So it all starts with design of the packaging. Is it overpackaged? Is the packaging easy to recycle? So he will be able to influence the most important component of this whole chain of events. So that is the responsibility. So the first one is an improved product design, but he will also have additional responsibility like prevention, reuse, preparing for reuse, recycling, as we just mentioned, and then also driving changes in behavior from the consumer. Then next slide, please. Right, what is household packaging? So non-household packaging, as you will see, we also often refer to it as industrial packaging because it's easier to explain when we communicate towards the outside, but our legal definition refers to more everything that is, let's say in an easy way, it is not household packaging. So household packaging is what private people will consume at home. So in most cases, most of what we'll find as non-household packaging is transport packaging. So as you can see here, it's pallets made of wood or boxes made of wood, plastic wrapped around the pallets, cardboard boxes, and other ones. You also have a distinction where we shift between household and non-household packaging on primary products. So this would be primary products that are used for consumption. And then the question is it more households will consume it, or will they be used more in a non-household settings? Typically, this would also be products being used in restaurants. So are they more in big quantities or in smaller quantities? But for that, there is a list which is published by Valorlux that can easily be provided to identify in which scenario, which type of packaging you put eventually on the market. Okay, next slide, please. So the definition of producer. So definition of producer, that is the critical element of this whole framework. So are you going to be identified as a producer or not? So here we have a set of definitions. I put them in French because that is our legal definition, but we also provided a translation here in English. So there's a few cases here. You have to bear in mind that actually those definitions have initially been developed with a more bearing in mind household packaging. And we try to now apply this definition to non-household packaging. We can be a bit more tricky in some situation. However, looking forward, we will have the new European regulation that's going to be in place soon, where the definitions is, let's put it like this, easier to understand when it comes to transport and packaging, but it won't have this major difference for most companies with regards to those products, because the producer will more or less stay the same apart from certain examples. So this presentation will still give you a good overview if you fall under the definition. So the first case, that's the easiest one. That's the one I just mentioned. So this is a company that is established in Luxembourg, and it sells a product, again, in Luxembourg directly to a consumer or one of its clients. Okay, so that is the easiest scenario. So here you see the producer, as I mentioned before, the dairy producer who will sell to the supermarket, and his products are also shipped with transport packaging. So this producer will be responsible for all this packaging, and he will have to become then also, he falls under the EPR scheme and have the responsibilities that come with it. And then the second definition that we have, the next slide. So the next definition, that is actually where we have also a lot of companies that fall under this definition, and they might not be necessarily aware that they have that responsibilities. So here you'll see again the company with the producer is based in Luxembourg, but it imports from, in this case from Germany, it imports packaged products on transport packaging and then resells those products to another company. As you can see on this scheme, you can see that the pallet has been removed by the company in Luxembourg, which already say here is actually the producer. So the producer will be responsible for the transport packaging and the packaging from the packaged product in this case. So if you're a company who's import products and then resell them, you will be responsible for all the packaging, including then the packaging that you will discard of at your company, may it be pallets or shrink wrap going around your pallets, etc. So, and this is probably a case that we're going to find that we find a lot, and where the producer are not necessarily registered yet. And then the last case. Okay, so this is there are cases where the producer is established outside of Luxembourg. And the highest amount of producers that do fall under that definition are actually generally within household packaging. So this will typically be e-commerce. You order something online directly from maybe Amazon, Temu, Shein, or other companies that deliver, which are directly delivered to a household. So in this case, the producer is not based in Luxembourg, but outside of Luxembourg. So there the seller will be based outside Luxembourg. This can also happen in an industrial setting. In an industrial setting where there would be a company in Luxembourg that imports from outside. However, it will be consuming the product itself without putting packaged products on the market. So these are really industrial settings where this might happen. However, this is often difficult to understand. There's a fine line in this definition under when you fall under this scenario or not. Under PPWR, this will be explained a bit more in detail. We're going to refer to end user. And in this case, we actually often have to take a decision case by case. So for those scenarios, companies often come to us. And as you see, we invite you to always contact us. You also find my contact details on the end. And these are really the cases that we can decide one by one. But they're not that much prevalent, I would say. Okay, and then next slide, please. So what are the obligations that come with it? So here you see the different articles from our laws here in Luxembourg that again I translated into English to make it easier. So the first obligation is the recycling targets. So we have national recycling targets on the different packaging types, and that responsibility will be bared by the producers. So these are different targets set for 2025, 2030, and so forth, where the recycling targets have to be achieved. So by better collection, better recyclers have been chosen, and prevention and other and reuse and other things. So so for non-household packaging, as stated in the law, the producer must appoint a producer responsibility organization, organisme agréé. As you see in Luxembourg, we only have, the only one is Valorlux at the moment. So for non-household packaging, producers have to register with Valorlux as the legal definition is applied at the moment. So what are the obligations that come with it? So the obligation, previous slide. So the obligation is, as I mentioned already before, carry out prevention and reuse measures. And then, and that's an important one actually, number 3, that is to ensure transparency of waste flows in terms of quantity and destination, treatment methods, collection, recycling, recovery. What do you mean by that? As you know, there's often being, people always doubt on where the waste is going. Is it just collected here and then sent for incineration or others? And this is something we prevent by this article. So we want full transparency of the waste flow, which has to be reported to us. So waste have been produced. We need to know the exact company where it's been sent to and the recycling that has been undergone. So this is an important element. And then, yes, the organisme agréé or the responsibility organization, they have to register its members with us. So we have a list of all the producers that are registered in Luxembourg, and that needs to be kept up to date. And there you can also see maybe if your supplier is already part of that list or not. And we also try to keep track then of companies that might actually not be producers yet, but should be registered as a producer. So yes, with this, I thank you, and I'll pass again contact details here, and I pass the floor then machbar sind. Thank you.
Thank you, Tim. So we will look now at Valorlux to see what the responsibilities and services of an accredited body are.
Yes. Thank you, Caroline, and thank you, Tim, for the explanations about the legal framework and the obligations that come with it. And I will now continue with what Valorlux does for so that to ensure that you are compliant with that packaging obligation. So I see that we also have some members here in the webinar, and we also have some companies that are new to the obligation. But I think in both cases it will be interesting to at least refreshen a bit what you know about EPR scheme in Luxembourg. So I want to start a bit with what does Valorlux exactly do, because sometimes I think that's not really clear for every company. So every company that has waste has to achieve some recycling rates. That is, those are different for plastics, paper, cardboard, but right now the global for everything combined is at 65% of has to be recycled for packaging, and we try to pool our member resources because some of the companies maybe will not be able to achieve those recycling rates, or maybe have not the full transparency about where does their packaging go. So we try to pool all of our member resources and thereby achieve that every member of us is compliant with packaging obligations. So what do we do exactly? First of all, we calculate the national recycling rates for the whole Luxembourg, and that we do by combining the put on the market data, which we ask each member of us once a year. And then we also contact our collectors, which are in Luxembourg, or maybe even outside of Luxembourg, to send us their collected quantities of packaging. And then we do a division, and then we have the recycling rates for Luxembourg. Another quite important task for industrial packaging is the whole traceability of packaging streams. Because you have to, like Tim before said, you have to assure that your packaging is really recycled somewhere, and where is it exactly sent to. So that we do by auditing the different traders we have in Europe, and those are well outside of Luxembourg, so not only Luxembourg. And then we also have to audit the final recyclers because they sometimes are even outside of Europe. And that we do also together with our with Valipax, so in Belgium, and that's an idea to reduce costs for the total traceability part. But that's at the end we know where did our Luxembourg packaging go and where was it recycled, and was it recycled with safety measures? Was there no child labor and nothing else? Another part which we do, which is quite important right now, I think in August there will be now the packaging and packaging waste regulation, which will be active in Luxembourg. So we try also to implement all of those new requirements to ensure that you stay compliant. Then another part which we also have to do is to have prevention measures to reduce the total packaging quantities. And I think the last point, quite interesting for some of our members, if you are sorting your different packaging waste streams in different waste containers, you can get an incentive for that. So that's with that idea, we try to motivate the members to do the sorting, because without sorting, there would be no recycling. If you put everything in a mixed waste container, everything would go to incineration, and the recycling rates would decrease automatically. So that's an idea just to help you a bit to get to motivate you to do the sorting. So now I will go to the next chapter, which packaging is affected, and I will speak a bit. I think Tim already told you some first details. To do now the report, so the annual report which you have to do as member to declare your packaging. you first of all need to know what is exactly industrial packaging. The first two, I swear, the first two components are quite easy. So that's tertiary and secondary packaging. That's basically stretch films, single-use pellets, cartons, drums, and so on. And for now, we only ask single-use panels, but we will at some point also ask the reusable packaging. But for now, you only need to declare single-use packaging. Then we also have the part for primary packaging. Oftentimes that's household, so you do not need to declare it into industrial, but sometimes you have industrial packaging which is designed for professional use. That could be a packaging of a motor or some oil or something which is in direct contact with the industrial product. So that you would also have to declare as industrial packaging. So then if we go to the annual declaration, which you have to do, we have 4 different material categories. So the first one is paper cardboard. I think this one is quite easy. That would be cardboard boxes. And then the second one, which we have, is plastics. There you have stretch films, protection corners, and yeah, the stretch films, and perhaps also plastic pellets. Then we have wood. That's oftentimes crates or wooden pallets. And then the last category which we ask is metal. So that's oftentimes drums. All of that must be declared on our online platform, Valbase Online, where you need to know the mass of each of those 4 categories. So paper, cardboard to metal, you always have to put in the weight of that packaging. So then we can go to next. So I want to explain you a bit about the operational model, how all of it works, and how you can do your declaration. So if you're now looking at your company specifically, the best way to prepare your declaration is to split everything into 2, I would say now, waste flows or packaging flows, I think is better. So you have on one side your finished products, where you yourself are packing your products. So that's the one part. So that's what you need to declare only if you sell it to Luxembourgish clients. So if you export, let's say you have a product, you're a company in Luxembourg, you pack the product and you sell it to Germany, that would not need to be declared in Luxembourg. But if you sell it to a Luxembourgish company, then at that point you would need to declare the packaging which you used. On the other hand, I think oftentimes in Luxembourg, this is the flow is quite a bit bigger than the one of the finished products, because oftentimes many companies do not have that many Luxembourgish clients, but the import part for Luxembourg is quite big. So if you import products with packaging and you are unpacking those products, you will also be responsible to do a declaration and to take that mass of packaging into account. So that would be really if you import from a non-member of Valorlux, and there we have a member list, and also the administration has a list of companies who are compliant with the EPR schemes and who are affiliated to Valorlux, to us. So that are the 2 different flows which you have to take into account to do your declaration. Then we can go to the next slide. So to help you a bit for the declaration, because that's now really theoretical, we have developed 2 different methods. So we have one method A, that's mainly for your finished products. So that's if you want to do a declaration based on product data sheets or consumption. That means, like, if you have your finished products, you oftentimes have a product data sheet, or you have some idea of your annual consumption. So that works best if you have an product data sheet. You have your product, and you know, for that product I use 10 kilograms of stretch films and 1 pallet of 25 kilograms. Then you would declare those mass multiplied per the units sold. Or you have the annual consumption data. That would mean if you know in the year 2025 I used 100 kilograms of stretch films, then you can just say, okay, as I use those 100 kilograms, I declare 100 kilograms of stretch frames. So that is open to you if you want to use the product data sheets or the annual consumption data. Then we have a method B, which is quite useful for your imports. So because oftentimes you do not really have an idea about, okay, my supplier used that amount of packaging to send me this product, because you are not in contact with them on the product data sheet, or maybe they don't even have one. So the idea is, if you are unpacker, that packaging will fall into your waste container. And then we give our members the possibility to say, okay, then use the mass of your waste container to do the declaration. That would mean you get normally annually a waste certificate from your collectors, or you maybe have a waste certificate from a Superdreckskirche in Luxembourg. You can use those certificates to know, okay, I have that much mass in my containers, and I can declare the paper cardboard which is noted on the certificate and declare it to Valorlux. You just really have to pay attention there that you just declare the mass of non-members of Valorlux. So let's say you can use the gross mass which is on your certificate, but you have to do a calculation. Okay, I have 75% of my suppliers are non-members of Valorlux, then I just declare 75% of the gross weight which is on the certificate. So that's an adjustment which you have to do yourself, and oftentimes it's allowed to do that, but oftentimes then we ask, okay, how did you calculate that percentage? But really do it, because else we have double declarations. That would mean your supplier declared and you declared again the same packaging. So that would be not correct, and not correct for the recycling rates. Then I think we can go to the next slide. Okay, so I just want to give you a small presentation of the declaration form. So this is on Valbase Online. That's our declaration template. So here you will see at the bottom, you see the 4 rows for the different materials. So paper, cardboard, plastics, wood, and metal. And then one column to the right, you will see gross weight A and gross weight B. So that are the 2 different methods. So gross weight A is method A, and gross weight B is method B. So you can there declare everything which you have from your product data sheets or annual consumption in the column A, and everything you have from your waste certificates in the column B. And then for the column B, which you used your certificates, we also do an adjustment which you see at the next column, percentage packaging B. That means, because we know in your waste containers for paper, cardboard, for example, there's not only packaging in it, there's also some paper in it from your office, or even other non-packaging. And we have standard values to reduce or to eliminate the non-packaging from your waste containers. So we have national values now for every member, but we know some of you have different cases, or maybe they have 100% cardboard container. Then if you ask us, we can adjust those percentages to higher or lower values depending on your use case. So they are fixed at the beginning, but we can, if you ask us, adjust those percentages. And then at the end, you will see the calculations, so the total gross, the total net, and I think a quite important column, so the unit costs for the different materials. So just to tell you the unit costs quickly, for paper, cardboard, and wood, the unit costs are 14.5 euros per ton, and for plastics and metal, the unit costs are 39.5 euros per ton. And then in the last column, you will see your total contribution, which you have to pay annually. So you do an annual declaration, and you have to pay annually what you put on the market. So, and then I think that's all. Yeah, there you see the method A and method B, those 2 columns. So just to give you a quick summary, so where you can use the different methods for your imports, you can use either method A or B, because let's say you have the product data sheets of your suppliers, you can even use your product data sheets, because perhaps that's more accurate than using the certificates of your waste containers. Or so that's your choice, but I always recommend use for your imports the mass of your waste containers. But you have to pay attention for your finished products. That packaging will not be in your waste container, so you have to use method A. So there you have no choice. You have to have some idea of how much packaging was used. And if you need help to really know how much did I use, you can contact us, and we can help you determine a method how to calculate the packaging which is needed to be declared. So yeah, okay, and then we can go to the next slide. So also a quick summary of who does exactly what. So at the left corner we have the responsible for packaging. So that's generally the member which now has put packaging on the market and needs to do a declaration. So that's the party who finances the system and helps so that everything is traced until the end and that everything is eliminated correctly according to the obligations. So that responsible for packaging will now send packaged products to an unpacker. And now it's important to know you can be both. So you are also sometimes both. If you are importing, you are unpacker. That means you are on the one side responsible and unpacker. And if you're unpacker, you can profit from incentive, so the bonus for doing the sorting. So if you sort your plastics, metals, and wood correctly, you can get an annual bonus for that. And for the plastics, it's always the highest because the plastic recycling rates are always the most difficult ones. So we want to encourage that plastics is sorted correctly. And I think it's quite an interesting bonus if you are doing your sorting correctly. You can ask that bonus between May and November if you did your declaration beforehand. So if you're compliant with everything and then you ask your bonus, you receive the bonus end of the year. And then the last step is, of course, you unpacked now that packaging. It is sent to a waste collector who now collects it, and then we take over. We do the tracing. Where is it sent to which trader, to which final destination? Is it recycled? Is it recycled under safety measures and so on? So that's really our part where we help you stay compliant. So that's also the part which beforehand was not necessary, but now with the EPR scheme, that's the obligation which you have to do. And I think if you would do it on your own, that's a quite hard task because oftentimes you don't have the whole traceability image of that. Okay, then we can go to the next. So for the conclusions and next steps, so what do I have to do now? So we are currently in the declaration period. So our declaration period is always between January and end of February for the year before. So we always declare for your year of activity of the year before. So now we are in 26, and then you did declare your activity of 25. And now to be able to have access to Valbase, you need to become member. There we have on our website a tab to become member is normally quite visible, and then you're automatically in a procedure where we help you become member. And we have a small member contract which is for every member the same, so that also the unit costs are not different, and that there's no difference between anyone. And and then we help you give access to Valbase, and we support you for your declaration. And the third step, not to forget, if you are eligible for incentives, you don't need to. You just have to ask your bonus on Valbase once your declaration has been validated between May and November. So that's the only thing where you have to pay attention. Please ask also your incentive after you did your declaration, else you will just miss out on maybe a bonus which you could get. That's all for me. And if you have some questions left, if you need some help, what do I need to declare? I'm really responsible. Don't hesitate, contact us. That's why we're there, and we try that you are compliant in the fastest way possible.
Many thanks, Mark. We will now move on to the question and answer session. So, as I said, you can ask your questions in the Q&A tab. And if you want to stay anonymous, please tick on the appropriate box. So, have a look. on the question. So I have a questions for Marc. So in the slide 29, it said that producers should only declare if they sell to a Luxembourgish client. What is this client is further selling the packed product to a foreigner client? Is there a system to deduct this volume later on?
So if you're 100% sure that your sold products are not staying in Luxembourg, it would not be correct to declare them because they exit the Luxembourgish market afterwards. But you need to be 100% sure, and it only is possible for your finished product. So that's only the part where you have to look: is the client Luxembourg is for your finished product, so the right side of the part, so not the imports which you have. But if you have finished products which you pack and you know for sure for 100% it exits the Luxembourg, there's no need to declare it.
Okay, thank you, Marc. Another question is, if I am based outside Luxembourg and I sell via distance selling to an industrial end user or distributor in Luxembourg, but the delivery takes place outside Lux, as defined by the Incoterms terms of sale, who has placed the product on the market in Luxembourg?
I might take that question then. So we do not look at the transport side on where the product has undergone. We look at the point of sale. So where has the product been put on the market? So if I understand this question correctly, if somebody orders something online, so it's been sold via distance selling, I imagine as well VAT has been paid in Luxembourg, but I'm not sure with VAT, also not with Incoterms. But in this case, it seems pretty clear that it has been sold online to a customer from Luxembourg. And even if that customer has gone across the border and picked it up there, it will still be the seller who will be the responsible producer. However, if somebody from Luxembourg goes to Germany and buys something there, then the seller in Germany will not be a producer in this case. However, if it's a very specific case, don't hesitate to contact us and we can go more into details.
Okay, thank you, Tim. The same person has another question. So what about primary packaging of products designed for an industrial use? It seems obvious that this should be industrial packaging, but both Marc and Tim specifically mention only more than 10 kilogram primary packaging for professional users.
Yeah, maybe I will take this question. So if you know that it's for in industrial use, it falls under industrial packaging. The 10 kilograms guideline is just really a help. So normally, if you have a primary packaging and you don't know, is it now sold to household or industrial, that exists. So sometimes you have packaging of products which is in between. There we say, okay, is it now bigger than 10? Is it heavier than 10 kilograms, or is it less than 10 kilograms? Then we make a difference. But if you know it's for industrial use, then it's industrial packaging. So even if it's just 2 kilograms, so we have really, if you know it's industrial, it's industrial packaging. So yeah, there you don't have to use that guideline. We have also a guideline on every different packaging. If you are in the case of, oh, I'm not sure, I'm selling to household and industrial, so I'm between, there we help. Okay, there we have to make a choice. But normally, if you have a product for industrials only, it's industrial packaging.
Thank you, Marc, for this answer. Another question, what about pallets which are part of a deposit return program? Do they have to be declared?
So if it's reused, so they're in a deposit scheme, they right now do not have to be declared, but that will also change. Now we will ask in the next year, I think some first information about how much pellets did you use and how much reusable pellets did you use. So for now, it has not to be declared, so there's no unit cost at that. And I think always the reusable packaging will stay also unit-wise, so unit cost-wise, more interesting than taking single-use choices.
Okay, thank you, Mark.
Yeah. So the question one, can you contrast the role of a producer of packaging with a producer who uses packaging to contain their product?
Yeah, that is a good question. Maybe in my presentation I have not pointed to that enough. What we say in Luxembourg, we say it's a packaged product placed on the market. Okay, so the producer of packaging, if he doesn't fill the packaging with a product and we sell it, he will not be considered here as producer. So it's the person that puts on the market packaged product. I have to, however, say that there will be moving forward under PPWR, if there is a producer's transport packaging, in certain case he might be a producer. However, if you are in that case, again, contact us, but that will only be applied later. Also, maybe very important to say here, we only consider packaging that has become waste in Luxembourg. So if it has been exported, again, you will be producer, but in a different country and not in ours. So we will only consider packaging that has become waste in Luxembourg.
Okay, thank you, Tim. Thank you to the Environmental Agency and Valorlux for enlightening our participants on non-household and industrial packaging EPR. So if you have any questions, please do not hesitate to contact me and our speakers. And thank you for your participation and see you soon. Have a nice day.
Thank you.
Bye.